Hi everybody, this is Ellen Vargo. I'm here on the PaperArtsy blog for the next 3 days, and I thought that we would do a journal page so you could see how I do my backgrounds with the brayer, and then we'll do some collaging, and then we will do some lettering so I can show you how I do my lettering and some other embellishing with paint pens and things. So today we're going to be working on heavyweight smoothie cardstock, which I love. It really has a wonderful smooth finish. And we're going to be working in a blue and green color palette with a little bit of yellow thrown in too. So let's get started. I'm going to start with Zesty Zing, which is just an awesome bright yellow color. And I'm just going to, I tried to do this earlier and realized I wasn't recording, so that's why you see all these colors spread out already. So we'll start with Zesty Zing. I'll get some color out onto my brayer. And this first color, I'm just really trying to get color down. I'm not concerned about making it pretty or anything. I'm just trying to get the color down. And I usually work in either vertical or horizontal strokes with the brayer. It just seems to be more pleasing to my eye than doing diagonal. Learned that from Diane Reevely. And it seems to work. So that's enough of the yellow, I think. And the next color we're going to use is Limelight, which is that kind of almost, not quite neon bright green, sort of a springy green. I like it. So put some of that down. Again, roll it out with your brayer. And this time I'm going to fill in some of the white areas with the green. Not trying to cover up all the white, just trying to hit some of the spots we didn't get with the yellow. And again, working in either horizontal or vertical patterns. Sometimes I'll go over the brayered area again just to smooth it out. Sometimes the brayer gives kind of a texture, which sometimes is nice, and sometimes I want it just to look real smooth. I think we need a little bit more. And it looks like I'm using a lot of paint, and I guess I am, but all of this paper that I'm using to roll out the paint, I will use for collage paper later. So this time I'm kind of going over some of the yellow areas and hitting more of the white area, just kind of going around the edges. So I think that's enough of the green. I'm hoping the colors come through okay. This is the first time I've done a video, so I'm winging it, so be forgiving. We're going to move into the blues now. I'm going to start with Beach Hut, which again is a real nice translucent oceany blue, kind of, well, Caribbean blue, I guess. And same thing, roll it out. And now that I'm getting into the blues, I'm going to start using a lighter touch because I still want the yellows and the greens to show through. So I'm really just kind of skimming with my brayer now. And I'll start with the edges and then do a little bit in the middle. So just very light touch. Edges. Oops, I'm a little wonky there. And just a little bit in the middle. So that's our first layer of blue. Then we'll do some South Pacific. And again, we're going to use a light touch with this. And I'm going to use even less of this than I did the Beach Hut, and more towards the edges, because I want the edges to sort of be darker, so it'll act kind of like a frame. So again, right along the edges, just to skim. I'm sort of pushing the paper down because the moisture is making it curl, and I want to hit those edges. And just going to kind of brayer that off a little. Just a little bit in the middle, just a hint of it. Clean that off a little bit, and then I'm just going to kind of go over the whole thing and smooth it out. once you get most of the paint off, it doesn't really matter if you go over the whole area because there's no more paint left. You're just kind of smoothing everything out. And my last color for the background, I'm going to use Inky Pool. So again, another translucent color. All of the colors that we're working with today are translucent. So they blend nicely. So this is Inky Pool. And I try and create some interesting color blendings on the newsprint that I'm using just because it makes good collage paper later. So again, even less of the Inky Pool, just skim just to get some, I guess, low lights, not highlights, but low lights. Just give some depth. And just a tad in the middle. So I think that's enough. So I'll just kind of clean off my brayer here, smooth it out and blend it for my collage papers later. And then I will dry it with a heat tool. It's not going to take very long to dry because we're not using that much paint. It's such a thin layer when you smooth it on with the brayer that it really doesn't take long at all to dry. You can kind of tell it doesn't have to be like 100% dry. Okay. Now we're going to do some stamping on the background, and a background that I have loved to do lately is using the kind of scratchy pod shape from set number 2, the EEV02. We're going to use that one. So I've got that on my flexi block, and I'm going to be using some archival inks. I've got Viridian, Aquamarine, and Manganese Blue. And I'm going to kind of do multiple colors on each stamp and just see what we get. And I'm going to kind of stack these across the whole page so we'll get a really interesting textured background. I love creating patterns. So I'm going to start with the lightest color, which is the Viridian. Just kind of ink that up. And then on the Aquamarine, I'm just going to hit the edges just to give it a little bit of depth. And we'll see what we get. I'm going to start in the corner and we're going to cover the whole background. So it's going to be very subtle on these darker edges. But once we get into the lighter areas, it'll show up more. Let's do more of the darker colors. Yeah, that works good. That manganese blue shows up better on the edges. Yeah, that's better. I'll go over that. And kind of stamp off the darker area. I think I'll do one more in the darker. And then I'm going to switch back to the lighter blue, the aquamarine. And then back to the dark. Just kind of mixing it up a little bit. It doesn't matter if you're switching colors if the pattern is the same, because I want the pattern to show through the paint, or on top of the paint. Let's do a dark one up top. And a dark one, well, let's do a lighter one here. Another lighter, and then a dark. You can see I'm not really cleaning my stamp, I'm just kind of scraping it off on my scrap paper here. Dark one. Again, we're going to cover the whole page. I think that Viridian is a little bit too light. It isn't showing up very much, so I'm sticking to the aquamarine and the manganese blue. You can see I'm not really being terribly careful. I'm just trying to stagger the images so it's not like little soldiers lined up. It's got a little bit of a pattern to it. And then again, for these edges, I'll stick only to the darker manganese blue so it shows up a little bit. It's okay if it fades out a little. And that is our background. So, hope you can see that. I love the pattern that creates. I think it's really pretty. And I love the scratchy shape, or the scratchy texture of that stamp. Whoops, trying to get my angles right. There we go. So that is layer one of our background. I thought I might try adding just a little bit of the diamond pattern from the set number 3. This one. So I'm going to add that. I think I will use some snowflake white for that. So we're going to use some paint for stamping. Just had to grab my palette knife. So let's put some of that down. Put the inks away. And I'm just going to spread some of this snowflake paint. This is snowflake. I'm going to spread that out with a palette knife, just so it kind of creating like an ink pad of paint. Wipe that off. And then, again, I'm just going to take my stamp and dab it into the paint. I'm not trying to make clean, precise images. I'm just going for a little bit of texture. So I might only do just a couple, just to give some interest. So let's just go for it. Just a little bit. Trying to cover not every area, but just some random areas across the whole page. Look at this corner. So that just gives the background a little bit of interest. Whoops. There you go. Yeah. So that's our background. So tomorrow we'll come back and we'll do some collage. And we'll see where the page takes us. See you then. Bye.